In this video, we're going to be tying a fly called the Tarpon fly variant. It is just a simple and classic split-tailed or splayed tail tarpon fly. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with a rooster hen cape. We're going to select 4 feathers, and it's going to be a variant cape, so it's going to have this slight grizzly pattern. We want to select 4 feathers. We're going to select 2 from one side of the cape and then 2 from the other side of the cape. And that way we will get 2 matched pairs of these tails. And what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 of them that we select from one side and we're going to match them up so that they curve together and they match up. You can see there that feather has a curve. So that's from one side of the cape. And then I'm going to take 2 feathers from the other side of the cape, and you can see these feathers curve the other way. So we have 4 feathers, 2 of each are matched up, and we're going to take these feathers and we are going to arrange them so that the 2 pairs splay away from each other. And this takes a little bit of pinching the feathers in place, making sure that they're matched up. And once you get your feathers arranged, I just lay them on the table. Then you're going to take your thread, you're going to start your thread, and for this fly we are going to start the thread near the back side of the hook, near the bend. And we're just going to tie it in and just let it sit there for a second. Now we're going to arrange those feathers. Like I said, you just takes a little bit of just fine-tuning. It's easiest to do them one set at a time. Once you get both sets paired up, then you can grab them all at the same time. And if it's easier for you to tie them in one side at a time, that is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I usually like to tie them in all at once. I don't know if it necessarily saves time, but I feel like I can usually get them pretty even and together if I tie them in all at once. So once I have them arranged, we want to tie in a tail that's about 1, 2, 3 times the length of the shank of the hook. Some guys will say 2 to 2.5, but it just depends on the hook that you're using. We're using an Owner 1/0 Aki. Then I just lay these feathers on the shank of the hook, and I bite down with my thread, nice tight wraps. Then I can let go. And if you need to fine-tune these guys a little bit, now is the time to do so. Then I can trim out the excess portions of the feathers. Now the next thing to do, I'll just kind of actually first give you a look at the tails. You can see there they splay away from each other. I need to fix one here a little bit. There we go, it's a little better. When this fly is stripped, those tails will move and pulse back and forth. That's kind of the idea behind the splayed-tailed tarpon flies. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to tie in the collar. And for this you can use a few different materials. A lot of guys like to use Schlappen. You can use soft hackle material. I'm just going to pull some variant feathers from the wing pads of the cape. I used a whiting 4B Rooster cape. It's new this year, and the nice thing about this Rooster cape is it comes with the wing pads, basically the neck feathers. So it comes with all the feathers you need to tie this fly. And I like to tie in the collar tip first. And I'm going to use a few feathers. I'm going to use actually 3 for this fly, but it depends on the size you're tying. The larger size, you of course are going to need to use either longer or more feathers. But for this size, 3 should do just fine. I'm going to tie these in by the tip. Now I'm just going to take the barbs of the feathers and I'm just going to gently stroke them back. This way when I go to wrap the feather, they do lay back onto the fly and swoop back. I'm just going to work my way forward. And I do like to use some of the little bit of the last portion of the feather, which a lot of guys usually strip off, but I want to keep some of this fluffy marabou from the feather. That adds a lot of life and movement to the fly. So keep that. Don't trim it out when you're prepping your feather. Once you have those tied off, now we're just going to take our thread and pull out any of the stray fibers. We're just going to wrap back up onto our collar a bit to get it to lay down. Just kind of cover up all the work that we've done. Then I'll just wrap back ever so slightly, about 1/8 of an inch or so, just to kind of get all that material to cooperate. Then we'll build up just a little bit of a cone-shaped head on the fly. Doesn't have to be much. It's just going to be enough so that we can place some eyes onto this fly. So once you have a little head built up, you take your thread all the way forward. Then I'm just going to use a pair of like 4mm living eyes, just a real small eye. They have a little bit of adhesive on them, so you can just get them to kind of set there for a minute. Then I'm just going to use a little bit of Loon fly finish. And the first little splotch, I usually just kind of add it to the top middle portion of the flies, or the eyes. Then I orient them, making sure that they are on there even. Then I can just zap that little bit of fly finish. That'll help keep them in place. Then I can finish gluing the top portion and the bottom portion. And you got to be careful not to overdo it with the fly finish. You want to add just enough to build a bit of a head. But the main thing is just to keep the eyes in place. Not looking to go crazy here. So I add just enough to kind of cover everything up. and of course cure the entire head. A lot of people will argue that eyes aren't necessary. A lot of tarpon flies don't have eyes, but it's kind of just a nice little way to make your fly more durable and also add a little bit of realism to your fly. So you can, of course, tie this fly without the eyes. That is your tarpon fly variant. Great little tarpon fly for the Florida Keys or Mexico, basically wherever tarpon are. Great little fly for getting those big fish to trigger to eat. That is the tarpon fly variant, and you can find all the materials for this fly on our website, intheriffle.com.